Hi, my name is Rod Cleef, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I'm thrilled you're here. I know you're going to love the dynamic woman we're interviewing today. Her name's Krista Mashore, and she is like one of the top 1% of all realtors nationwide. But what she's really known for is digital marketing. She's a digital marketing expert, and she's been in Success Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and all sorts of other places. And so very excited to get into it. And you're wondering, why are we going to talk about digital marketing on a multifamily, show? Because you need it. You need it to build reach. You need it to find investors, to find partners, to build your team. It's all about digital marketing, which is, of course, a love of mine as well. So I'm very excited to get into this. Krista, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rod. I appreciate it. I'm super excited to be here, and your story is amazing, and so I'm honored. I know you're kicking butt on this podcast, so congrats.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's have some fun. Why don't you tell a little bit of your story, and then we'll drill down on some strategy around marketing.
Yeah. So it's funny. I believe that mindset's more important than skill set. Kind of like I know you're a big mindset person, and I think a lot of times people will look at successful people and they'll kind of make assumptions that they just were successful all the time, and maybe they're more, they were born genetically with the predisposition to be more successful if they're an athlete, or maybe they for some reason we make excuses in our heads that people are successful because they're different than us and they excel in things that we don't. Which truthfully, I believe that all of us are kind of on an equal playing field. So and we look at somebody, we don't want to just assume that they just have it easy, right? But I think sometimes people do that. So I like to tell people my story. And one of my coaches a couple of years ago talked about how important your story is, and really truly helping people get past their own barriers and kind of moving past things and getting to where they want to go in life. So he encouraged us to tell our story. And for me, I had been telling a story about my divorce that I went through, which was really hard, but it wasn't really the story I should have been telling. It was a true story, but it wasn't like the real story, if that makes sense, that was going to really, really make an impact. So I remember leaving the conference, and I got on the plane, and I got out a piece of, yellow paper and started writing a letter to my mom. And I remember crying while I was writing this letter, and just, it was very emotional for me because I had some physical abuse from my mom when I was younger. And so I asked if I could kind of talk about that. And so I did. I gave her the letter. It took me 2 weeks just to give her the letter, and then took another 2 weeks for her to respond. But we went and had lunch one day. We never talked about the letter, but I knew that meant I had the permission from her to talk about it. And the reason I want that is because I'm very, very close to my mom now. I respect her and love her, and she's been a huge integral part of my healing. But I have not lived at home since I was 13 years old. So because of the abuse, I wet the bed until I was about 10. I had a severe learning disability, couldn't read until I was in the 4th grade. They just discovered in 2nd grade I couldn't read, so they put me in a special education class. And then finally, when I was 13, I started running away from home for about a year. And I lived on the streets. I lived in cars. I lived in my friends' closets while their parents were sleeping. And every time I'd get picked back up, I'd run away again. Until finally I broke the law. I ended up breaking into my 8th grade locker room when they were at PE and stealing all the girls' clothes and stealing their lunch money because we didn't have any. We needed money and we needed food. And that got me thrown into juvenile hall, where I stayed there for about 3 months. Then they shipped me off to a group home called Group Home Hidden Hills for Girls. There was nothing hidden about it because we got dropped off in this huge green bus that basically gave us a label as being like screw ups and bad kids. So the kids in 9th grade and high school they weren't very nice to us, right? They berated us and made fun of us and kind of ignored us unless it was mean that they were being. And so we were there I was there for a year. And then from there, I got shipped off to a foster home. So I have not lived at home since I was 13. And I tell this story because, when you have physical abuse from a parent, there's a lot of mental stuff that goes on. And so to be able to, have several multi-million-dollar businesses, it's I'm just like everybody else, right? But I've been able to figure out how to really develop my mind and to focus on the positive things and to make my past be, a catalyst for change and growth. And I think everybody has that ability. So it might not be physical abuse that somebody has gone through. Maybe it's PTSD. Maybe it's a bad divorce. Maybe it's, a major loss, major failures, kind of like you, like losing $55 million, back in 08 and 09. My gosh, like and then being able to recover is amazing. But there's, anybody can do that. I think I would love to, I'm glad we started off with that, because I think people always look for reasons why they can't.
Do you mind if I listen? Thank you for being that vulnerable and open. And I want to tell you that the most successful people on the planet are the ones that are able to tell stories. They're storytellers. And I actually had a story coach as well myself. And I remember, and they said, you need to pick your most painful moment and start with that, because that helps you connect with your audience, which you just obviously did. And mine was, I thought it was being picked on a playground when I was young, and they're like, no, that's not painful enough. And then I actually started crying when I started thinking about the most painful moment was telling my kids we were getting a divorce and my daughter screaming about it. And so, I really appreciate your vulnerability. And guys, there's a message in this, and that is you need to find your own story as well, because when you can tell your story as succinctly, as Krista just did, it's very, very powerful and helps you connect with people. And that really is the secret. You guys know this business is a team sport. So, it was really, I really appreciate you sharing that. And so let's talk, if you don't mind, because they've heard me talk about how I got past my, losing everything. I'd love to hear how what you leaned on, what you embraced, what you embodied to get through what you got through, and how you got to the incredible success that you have today. Do you mind sharing maybe some of that strategy?
Yeah, no problem. And I, like you, I've been successful and then lost it all and came home to drain bank accounts as well after making a lot of money. So I've been in the same position as you. I think, everything, Rod, boils down to just a choice, right? And understanding like that truly, people really have to find extreme ownership in every aspect of their life, right? So you can make your mess be your message. You can make your mess be the reason why you do well, or you can make your mess be your excuse as to why you don't. And I just remember making it, I was always a really good kid. I mean, I was a good kid. It was almost like I lived in two families. There was the family that, we went camping, and I'm so close to my dad, and he's the best father in the whole world. And then my mom was too, but then she was also she would be very volatile and abusive, very abusive actually. And so it was like she was two different people sometimes. So I kind of lived in the same house that was like two different houses at times, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just realized like I wanted more in life, and I knew I was a good kid, at heart. And I wanted to be able to, I love people. I used to be a teacher. I taught third grade for 6 years, and people are kind of my thing. I like people. And I just decided like, I want to be the best version of myself, and there's no one coming to save me, right? Like I've got to save myself. I mean, I paid for my foster parents kicked me out of the house as soon as I graduated because I was 18 and the money quit coming in. And so instead of crying and whining, I went and got student loans, and I applied for a few really small scholarships, and but I worked full time. I went to school full time, and everything is about a choice. Like you just make the choice, and the biggest thing that I think that I know that I have, and that what everybody has, is it's our brain, right? Because our thoughts, and there's so much research, scientific research about the brain and how the brain works, and how like our thoughts, our philosophy,
how powerful they are.
Yes, how powerful. I mean, it's like they're the most powerful thing in your thoughts. Like they turn into the way you act, how you implement your routines, your habits, and your actions and your habits and your routines and your rituals, they turn into your life, right? And they all start from your thoughts. So I love reading and studying. So I've become a huge just reader and learner. And then not just reading and learning, because the power is not in knowledge. The power is in actually implementing the knowledge that you learn over and over again. And I'm just like you and everyone else. I'm sure there's times where it's like, oh my God, I'm being really negative today, or like I'm doing like, what is wrong with me? Why am I focusing on this? And you have to like reset, right? But being able to notice that and make the adjustment. The success for me has come 1,000% on what I think about, what I focus on. The gratitude, all the things that people talk about, but everyone thinks, oh, they don't really listen to it because they think it's not really important, when it's like, it's everything.
It's the most important. Yeah. You know what? I want to circle back to something you said, which was really profound. You kind of glossed over it, which was, you have a choice how to decide what something that happened to you means really. And life is about meaning. And two people can have, like someone could have had the same abusive experience that you had growing up, jumping into a foster home, getting kicked out of that foster home right when you turned 18, and you know how that could make you feel, and you chose you basically put a positive meaning on it where someone else could have been destroyed from it. And so, guys, remember this. You choose the meaning that you place on something. When I lost 50 million bucks, although frankly, I don't think it compares to what you went through. The meaning I placed on it is I never would have met my wife if it hadn't happened, and I'd give it all up again for her. And that's the truth of it. And so remember that life really is about meaning. And you also mentioned ownership. And, when you can totally own everything that happens to you, both the positive and the negative, it's actually very freeing, and you're not finding excuses. Would you agree with that?
Oh my gosh. Have you ever read the book from Navy SEALs, Extreme Ownership?
Oh yeah. Right.
Everything.
Exactly.
We have a choice. Like, I went through a horrible divorce, but it was I chose to get married. So that, like, I have to look at, well, you had warning signs. You kind of knew, like, that was your fault, everything is like that. Now, when I say that, I understand that some people, there's abuse and there's victims. And when you're a victim of rape, let's say, or even abuse from a parent, that is not your fault. And so please, when Rod and I are saying this, we don't mean for things like that. But whether it is like a rape or an abusive, whatever, you do have a choice of how you choose to let that affect your life, right? Like, and there's nobody else coming to save us but us, right? There really isn't. And we could blame everybody else. I could blame my mom. In fact, about 2 years ago, my mom broke down and she just was like, she was sobbing uncontrollably for a couple hours because of the guilt and the regret from what she did. And I said, Mom, don't be mad. I said, don't be sad. Don't be like, guilt is useless, number one. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. I know that sounds crazy, but if you didn't do that to me, I don't believe I'd be as successful today. I don't believe I'd be as
no question. Yeah. No question. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry I interrupted. Please continue.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it happened. And I had to tell her, please release yourself from that guilt, because, I made my message, and because you allowed me to share it, I've been able to help a lot of people. So I don't regret any of it.
Yeah. And I tell you, I'm being a little selfish digging into this more, because this has got so many parallels to things that have happened for me. And I know you guys are getting value from this. And so, I just remember, I had a lot of childhood stuff growing up as well, and picked on in school, beat up a lot, and didn't speak English, and and then some childhood experience with some girl on a playground. And I came up with the belief that I wasn't good enough. And that's a limiting belief system. And a lot of people have that limiting belief system. Now you took that, if that happened to you, you took it and spun it and moved on and past it. And I had to do the same thing. So, this is, I think this is adding a ton of value. Well, but we can shift now. I mean, thank you for sharing that very much. And here's something else I want to mention. That was incredibly vulnerable. And a lot of women especially are afraid of being vulnerable, but there's incredible power and strength in vulnerability. And I hope you guys see that in this dialogue that Krista and I are having. But let's shift over to marketing. So, you're known for that. I know you've got a book called The Ultimate Lead Gen Playbook. And guys, when you're out there raising money for a deal, you're basically need to generate leads for potential investors. If you're out there direct marketing to sellers, you're gonna generate leads for that business. So it's a very relevant conversation. So maybe we could drill down on some of the strategy. I know you're a big Facebook expert. I don't know where to take this, so maybe you can help me a little bit. Let's talk strategy a little bit.
Okay, so first of all, understand it doesn't matter what you do for a living. Marketing is the basis of everybody's business, right? If you want to sell a lot of homes, flip a lot of homes, whatever, invest in a lot of homes, if you have proper marketing, that's going to be, every aspect of your business is going to be easier.
Peter Drucker said, every business is nothing but innovation and marketing.
I totally agree.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Totally agree. So, and marketing is attraction. So what I want you to think about, especially I know that in investing, it can be pretty competitive, especially if you're trying to find off-market properties, right? That's, you're buying them for, 50, 60, 70 cents to the dollar. And that's your hope. And it's hard, right? It's one of the hardest things. But people want to work with people that they know and that they trust. And instead of trying to find a diamond in the rough to find these properties, wouldn't it be nice if people actually came to you and asked you for help with these? And I think I love marketing, but the marketing isn't just creating, a $10 million funnel or $25 million funnel. It's not just about that, but it's about your message and people seeing you and developing a relationship with you, and you breaking down their barriers and positioning yourself as the authority and actually adding value to them to help them. That's all where it starts. When the market crashed back in 2008 and 9, I had like 14 different transaction management companies I worked for, Wells Fargo, I had the HUD account, I was selling all these foreclosures. My best year, I sold 169 foreclosures.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden the market got better. Okay. And I went from doing 150, 160 to down to 12. And I was like, oh crap. I was the main breadwinner in the house. I had, 2 assistants. I had to fix it. So I started like really watching what the Fortune 500 companies were doing. How was Google and Nike and Whole Foods? How were they like so successful? So I started analyzing their marketing, and they do content marketing. And what content marketing is like you produce content, you educate. You educate. Yeah, it's all about educating and adding value.
Right.
So I came up with the term engagement marketing, which is the exact same thing, but you just engage the community, right? So if your investors, if they want to do more business, they have to engage their community, engage their leads, engage who they're going after, and you do so by this type of marketing that we're talking about right now.
Yep.
That's the first step in marketing.
Yeah, and let me just add one quick thing there. One not even really a caveat, just an aside. In this education-based marketing that we live in right now, which is really all marketing that's any good is education-based, there are 2 things to remember. One is you need to add value. And I heard it said that if you put out crap, you are crap. And so let's stick with that because that's the truth. Okay. You can't have somebody write your stuff for you and have it be crappy. It's got to be good educational content. Number 2 is you have to be consistent. Those are probably the 2 biggest factors for this business. Would you agree?
Absolutely. 1000%.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's also one of the hardest things. Consistency is hard. They give up before they start seeing the results. They don't realize they're 3 feet from gold. Right. And, adding value and like truly, really, truly helping people. And the funniest thing is the more that you do that, the floodgates just open. Like for example, my books, I tell the people how to do exactly what I do in my books, but because it's kind of overwhelming in the fact there's so much, they end up hiring me to coach them. Right. But I just give it all away. Like, here's everything. And then they still,
Same here. Same here. Yeah. Same here. I do my boot camps for a couple $100, 3 days, no sales pitch, but they want my coaching because it's drinking through a fire hose, and they recognize, that they can go further faster by paying for speed. And so it's the same dynamic. And, when you add the most value, you're going to be the most successful. I remember when I started my podcast, I started doing free phone calls for my listeners, 30-minute calls, and I did hundreds of them, literally. And that's what blew up my podcast initially. And I didn't have anything to sell at the time. And if I just added value, and, I got lots of love and positive feedback and growth from it. But those that add the most value are the most successful, no question. So I
would say serve, not sell. Serve, not sell, and you ultimately will sell.
Love it. Love it. Now let's talk about engagement for a minute, because that's something we are actually fairly recently doing in my tribe, where we'll add some, we'll put some content out there, but then we'll actively engage with the people in our community. And I'm DMing all freaking day long with people doing that. Is that the kind of engagement you're talking about, or what, or do you have a different definition?
It's more like involving them, but what you're saying is very important, right? Like you can't take the person outside of the sales process. And so, no matter how great your process is or your CRM, you still have to put the person back in, which is what you're talking about. But engaging me, like I involve the community. So for example, I tell people to become the community market leader, the area expert. Anytime somebody thinks about real estate or the community, your name should come up, right? And so you're interviewing, you're creating content, and you're interviewing local restaurants, you're interviewing local businesses, interviewing local professionals. And your people can do the exact same thing, right? You just need to figure out like who is involved in the process of what you guys are doing, and then start becoming like a reporter and interviewing those people, and then bringing them in, right? So my goal is to is to get them to think about, if they're thinking real estate or they're thinking community, my name comes up. Because I'm bringing the community in, right? Doing things like going into Facebook forum groups and just offering value. Somebody needs, a local home inspector, right? And you're on a Facebook group and you give them the home inspector's number, and
Right.
your people can do the exact same thing. Like think about all the different aspects of the transaction. And understanding who your client avatar is huge with this, right?
Right. So let me stop you for 1 second. So guys, so you might be, your avatar might be accredited investors. So how do you add value to accredited investors? Maybe you educate them on syndication and educate them on passive investing. Of course, a lot of syndicators do just that, but you figure out a way to set yourself apart. Now, one other thing you said, just let me drill down one other thing is, you can even if you're not an expert, by virtue of interviewing people, you're perceived as an expert, even though you're just asking the question. So you can act as if, fake it till you make it, as it were, if that's the case, if you're not totally up to speed on this business yet. So keep that in mind. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I so many of the things that we say are so similar, because I always say, perception is reality. I actually have a real estate agent that got voted best Beaufort realtor. And when people she didn't ask to be voted. She had never sold a house yet. Sold a house yet, because she was producing so much content about her community and doing local market updates and, best things to do in town. And talking about neighborhoods, she got voted best Beaufort realtor in her town, because perception is reality. So you can be brand new. I always say you can be a brand new anything. And if you give value, you help people, you educate them, be a reporter, right? Be a reporter and understanding who your clients are. And you cannot be considered a solution unless you're solving a problem. So what are the problems that people have? What are the fears they have, their aspirations, their desires, and speak directly to that. Research shows that the more that your content, the more that your message speaks directly to somebody, the more likely you will convert. So really spending time knowing who you're going after and where they're at right now, what they're thinking, where they're shopping, what they're doing, and knowing where they want to go. And if your content speaks to that, you're going to convert so much more.
Yeah. And guys, what in the business, what you do is you create something called an avatar, and you can even name that person. And this is your ideal investor, as it were. For example, as an example, if you're going after sellers, then it would be different. But what does that investor look like? What's their age, gender, interests, background, and you just try to come as close as you can, and then you identify what their problems and aspirations are, and you're off to the races. So that's good stuff. Now you do this on Facebook. You do this in Facebook groups, or can we get a little more granular?
Yeah. So we have done so much business online, and 99% of it's all been from Facebook. Now we take video content, we repurpose it, which means we'll still put it on YouTube because it's organic. We'll put it on our website. Sure. But I run ad campaigns. You've got to pay to play, right? So I always say it's kind of like what you said. It's the 8 C's. You've got to commit to consistently producing content correctly. So you can correctly, meaning I got to make sure people see it, and I got to put the right content out there, right? And if I do that, I'm going to make a connection. So I'm going to convert more. Okay. And to say, I think for your investors, it's so important, because the more you can make a connection with somebody, the more likely you're going to convert them. And so you're kind of standing out from all the crowd. And I can guarantee you that there's not a lot of investors that are doing this, right? Well,
probably not doing it properly. I can think of one actually that's killer at it. But the thing with what we're talking about, where you're out there looking for investors for deals, ultimately you'll likely have a conversation with them, just so because they're it could be investing $100,000 to $500,000. So, you'll very often have a conversation, but, you can also have a pretty incredible marketing funnel and sales funnel that takes them to to your webinar and/or has videos that explain different parts of the process, and you're educating them on what to expect and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of ways to automate this. So you agree with that, I'm sure. Yes.
Oh, we have that. Yeah. I have a funnel that we send people to, people will raise their hand and request, market analysis at their home. And then we direct them to a, 17-minute marketing video. And then we send them to a seller seminar where there's 23 videos from anything from inspections, what to expect, who pays for what. And I'm just indoctrinating them in the process. And so by the time I've already I always call you want to win before you arrive, right? Before I even get to there, they already know they want to hire me because they've already made the choice because I've just educated them so much. So.
And that same thing can apply here, guys. So
absolutely.
Love it. Love it. So you've got your book, Ultimate Lead Gen Playbook. It's on Amazon, guys. And her name's Krista Mashore, just like it sounds. And yeah,
if they go to getkristasbook.com, they can get it. We can give them a digital copy.
Getkristasbook.com. Okay, there you go.
Getkristasbook.com.
And it's with a K, guys. Krista, getkristasbook.com. Love it.
And we can put in the notes in case I'm doing the wrong thing, but yeah.
All right. We'll put it in the notes. You let me know if that's not quite right. But
yeah, that's not quite right.
Is there anything else I should have asked you that might add some more value, Krista?
Just the more that you can create video content, the better. There's something called a parasocial relationship. And what that is like research shows that the more that we see somebody on the other side of a screen, we start to develop a relationship with them. Like we feel like we know them. And then we start to trust them more, and your barriers get broken down. And then it's like, it's literally called a one-sided parasocial relationship. And when you do that, you're more likely to convert because people feel like they know you. Yesterday, I went to a sandwich shop. I was there for 45 minutes. There was maybe 20 people total in the place. Within that 45 minutes, 3 different people came up to me and said, "Aren't you that girl that I see all the videos on?" Like one person's like, "Oh, I see you on TV." Well, no, I'm not on TV. I'm on Facebook. Another one's like, she goes, "I feel like," she actually said this to my friend. I went to get some soda and she goes, "I feel like Krista and I are friends. Like I feel like I know her. Like she's like the girl next door, you know?" And so I'm sitting here listening to this. And then another guy's like, "Hey, I saw you on Facebook. I just moved here from Burlingame and I watch your videos all the time." Within 45 minutes, 3 different people. And they're talking to me like they know me, right? And they think they do because they've developed a one-sided parasocial relationship with me because they're seeing my content and I'm adding value and they're getting to know me. And that makes conversions so much better. And also you attract the right people. Like I'm attracting people that are more likely to want to work with me and like my personality. And then I'm detracting the ones that are like, she's too hyper, she's too loud, like, she's too bubbly for me. I don't, it's great. Then let's not work together. Right. So it just works in so many ways. And I think the more that your people can figure this out, it'll make a massive difference on the kind of impact they can make.
Yeah. With my warrior coaching students, my mentorship students, some of my coaches make them post videos in our warrior Facebook group because, they've got to get past the discomfort with it. And even me, I had a lot of discomfort. I look at some of my early videos that I did 5-6 years ago and I'm like, oh, good God. But you just, it's like anything, you do it enough and you'll get better and better at it. You'll get more comfortable with it. But video is absolutely the belle of the ball on all social platforms. The beautiful thing about it, when you create something, you can put it everywhere. You can put clips on. They've got me on TikTok. I've got video. It's got almost 1 million views now. I've only been on there for 4 or 5 months. And so, you just can cross-pollinate all of this stuff and use it on every single platform and to drive people back to wherever you're doing the most work, and be it Facebook, be it LinkedIn, be it, whatever it is, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. You could, or drive them to your website, or drive them to what's called a lead magnet, where you give something away for free to capture their email address. And by the way, when Krista said conversions, that's kind of like a sale, but in the digital marketing space, it's like converting them from, converting someone from doing your lead magnet to maybe buying a small thing or setting an appointment. It's a conversion in the process itself, just so if you didn't know what that meant.
And conversions are so much stronger. So for example, a lead magnet, just as Rod said, is you're giving away information to get somebody's most precious asset, which is their contact information. Because your goal is to get people off of these platforms like Facebook and YouTube and get them, you want to own their contact information, right?
Right.
But most people start with a lead magnet. So they'll start with like, hey, download this PDF and I'll get you the 7 steps to selling your house, or 7 steps to, to flipping. But people are afraid to do that now, right? First of all, they're getting, hundreds and hundreds of marketing messages every day. They're being asked for contact information. People are afraid to give it out because they don't want to get hacked, or they don't want to get stalked. So they don't do it. But if you develop a relationship with people first and they get to know you, and you do that through video marketing, when you ask for their information because you know what it is that they were interested in, right? Because you're targeting them and retargeting them on platforms like Facebook. When you ask them for their contact information, they are so much more likely to give it to you because you've developed the trust first.
Yeah, well, like here's a great example. These are some of my books that I've written that I give away for free. And like tonight, I'm doing a Facebook Live on syndications. And I have a book that is huge that I give away for free on Guide to Multifamily Syndication. So I'll educate first, and I'll say, hey, if you want this book, just ping me and I'll give it to you. And of course, then I've got your information, and you'll probably get some emails from me. No hard sells, but you'll get some emails. And that's really, and you can do the same thing with investors, guys. So anyway, well, listen, Krista, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and you've added tremendous value, and I'm really glad that we got to connect. So.
Thanks for having me. I love your story. I appreciate you, and keep on doing what you're doing, because you're making a difference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our Warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our Warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.